What's up, everyone? Welcome to another nightmarish episode of Terrorials with Steel City Dahmer.
What's your favorite scary movie?
We're going to continue this nightmare train with Nightmare on Elm Street 5, Dream Child. When I call this movie a nightmare, I don't mean because it's super scary or anything, it's because it's a complete hunk of shit. People think the next one in the series is the worst, but I have to say that you're fucking wrong, and this is the worst movie in the entire series. This is right up there with that fucking remake. Let's get on with this fucking review of A Dumpster Fire. The movie opens with Dan and Alice fucking their way through the credits. Alice goes to get a shower to clean herself up, and the drain starts to back up, and the water pressure is so strong it starts coming out of the fucking walls and the knobs. Alice starts to drown in her own fucking shower, until she can finally get the door open. She flies out of the shower, and into a mental hospital that Kruger's mom was raped in by 100 maniacs. This isn't the best place to be naked, and instantly she has a nun's outfit on, and walks through the room with 100 maniacs. Hey, even Robert Englund makes an appearance. Alice notices her name tag, and I guess is going to have to relive Freddy's mom experience. Lucky for her, Dan wakes her up from this dream. Oh fuck! Luckily, Freddy didn't stay too long, and Alice goes to get a real shower this time. We flash forward to where we'll meet the gang in this installment. You already know Dan, but here's Greta, played by Erica Anderson, Yvonne, played by Kelly Jo Minter, and here's this goofy fuck Mark, played by Joe Seeley.
My undying love, have some.
Alice runs to the park to get to work, but she stops as she notices a jump rope girl singing the Freddy song. This is the last time you'll hear this song until Freddy vs. Jason. She follows them, and in a moment's notice, it's dark out, so she must be in a dream, right? How though? Did she pass out mid-stride to her job? She sees Amanda and follows her into this Tim Burton-esque mental asylum. She recognizes this place from her previous dream. As she explores the hospital, the most unsafe and gothic baby stroller ever made strolls past her. She goes to investigate, but all of a sudden, she's on her stroller getting wheeled into surgery. We just saw Alice on the stretcher, but now it's Amanda, and Alice is watching her having this abomination of a baby. The nun fucking drops the baby, and the baby scurries out of the room. Alice ends up in the room where she defeated Kruger in the previous movie. The baby crawls in the sweater, and as he cries, the church begins to fall apart and grows into an actual Freddy.
It's a boy!
As Freddy fucks with Alice, Freddy's moms open the door, and they talk shit back and forth.
I must take yours.
We'll see, bitch. We'll just see.
Alice runs through the door and ends up in the Crave Inn. Maybe she gets what's going on, but she wasn't asleep. Alice ends up being 4 hours late for work. We cut over to the pool party that the rest of the gang are throwing. Some girl crushed a beer bottle with her hand, and Mark hates the sight of blood. Dan gets a call from Alice telling him that Kruger's back and she doesn't understand how since she wasn't asleep. Dan doesn't want to fall asleep while driving, so he turns the radio on. What the fuck? Dan's mom is on the radio and she is not happy.
My wayward ex-son Daniel, who's been acting like an ungrateful, unmanageable dickweed ever since he was seduced by that bimbo slut whore Alice.
Mom?
The truck begins to morph and attacks Dan. The truck forces itself into oncoming traffic. Freddy appears and pours champagne on his arm. The champagne turns into acid and he rips his arm off and sticks it to the side of the truck. Freddy drives the truck into an oncoming truck, and it sends Dan flying out the windshield and into this now empty pool. It doesn't stop Dan though. He hops on the bike and continues to try to get to Alice. As he weaves in and out of traffic, this bike transforms and becomes one with Dan.
This boy feels the need for speed.
I guess Freddy had enough with his Ghost Rider and sends him into another truck right outside of Alice's work. The truck driver hops out dressed like Freddy Krueger, and we see that Dan isn't really dead.
Hi, Alice. Wanna make babies?
Damn, that's just rude, Freddy. Dan really is dead. Alice wakes up in the hospital, and Yvonne tells Alice what happened to Dan. But she already knew. Yvonne, who's also a nurse, decides that this would be the perfect time to tell Alice she's just a little pregnant. While Alice tries to sleep in her room, some kid comes and talks to her and apologizes about her boyfriend dying. We cut over to Alice telling everyone about Amanda and Freddy.
Amanda Kruger was part of a religious order that ran that asylum in the 1940s. She was raped by lunatics and had the baby there.
Doesn't really seem like anyone believes nor really cares. They say that if anyone wants to get to the baby, then they're going to get through them first. And that's exactly what we're going to see. We cut over to Greta's house while her parents are having some bougie dinner party. Greta isn't feeling it since, you know, her friend just died. Turns out the chef of this party is Kruger.
Bon appetit. bitch.
Alice watches her fridge as it turns into a Primus video, and we see a premonition of what's going to happen to Greta. This is probably my favorite scene in the movie. I don't know why, but this fridge scene rules. Freddy keeps feeding her and feeding her until she dies right on the table. Alice and Yvonne go over to Mark's place to make sure he's okay. There's some fighting and making up. Yvonne leaves, and Alice and Mark go to his room in the factory where he lives in. Mark passes out, and Allison notices that he's in a picture that he drew of the Elm Street house. Alice draws the crap-ass stick figure of herself so she can zip into the drawing and save Mark. She hears Mark yelling for help as he's on the edge of falling into a giant soul-stealing asshole. Alice gets Mark out of them, but then Mark passes out and evaporates once he sees the blood on his hands. A little boy from the hospital named Jacob, played by Whit Hertford, is also in the Elm Street house. He then tells Alice that his friend with the funny hand tells him that his mother hates him. Alice is finally starting to see what's going on here. Kruger is using her unborn child to come into the real world. The next day, Alex is back at Mark's place as they talk over the whole Kruger situation. Mark is now a believer. Alice says she's going to go to sleep and for Mark to watch her. We all know how this is going to end. We cut to Yvonne about to take a dive. The diving board turns into a fucking Freddy claw, but she jumps in between the figures and jumps into the pool, only to end up in the same mental asylum that Alice is in. We see Alice roll into a weird watery room, and then Freddy pops up. Freddy picks up Yvonne from under the water, and Alex stabs in the mouth with a pool skimmer. They escape this weird room, but Freddy doesn't escape because he's scared of his own mother. We cut back to Mark, and oh shit, he's got the latest copy of Nightmares from Hell. He begins reading it, and sees what's really going on in this entire movie before he gets sucked in with this pretty cool effects. He gets transported into a black and white comic book version of his house. He sees Freddy and begins to run, but Freddy catches up to him on a skateboard and vanishes so he can fuck with Mark's emotion just a little bit more.
Is she delicious or am I crazy?
You leave her alone!
Right, son.
This really pisses Mark off, so much in fact that he turns into the superhero character he's been doodling throughout this whole movie.
Time to die, you scar-faced limp dick.
He begins to shoot Kruger, and it seems to be pretty effective as paper shreds keep flying out of his body. Oh shit, it's Super Freddy!
Better than a bastard maniac. More powerful than a loco madman.
Bullets can't phase him now, and he slices out a huge chunk of Mark, and all the color flows out of him as Freddy continues to cut him into a million little pieces. Alice wakes up and sees that Mark has been crushed to death. Yvonne drives over to the dilapidated mental asylum to find out Amanda Kruger's remains and to set her spirit free. Alice wasn't allowed to go, so she'll just dream her way into the asylum. Alice calls out Kruger before jamming the extremely sharp baby stroller into him, sending him into a room full of the 100 maniacs who are now going to tear him apart and rape him. Probably. Freddy's talking to Jacob in this room like a fucked up MC Escher painting. Freddy seems pretty cool with that whole Alice trying to kill him earlier thing.
Nice try, Alice. Thanks, babe. It's my new look. Like it?
Alice doesn't like this because she finally knows that Jacob is her child. Jacob says fuck this scarred up pussy and tries to get to Alice, but this room is fucked. Freddy tries a low blow and gets Dan to come in the room and tries to trick his own son with his dad. Alice and Jacob meet up and Alice calls out Kruger. I'm not sure what the fuck is going on here, but Kruger comes out of Alice's body.
Now we can really get to know each other.
Eventually, Yvonne busts through her wall and finds Amanda Kruger's body. I guess touching a dead body sets the spirit free? Amanda goes to the fucked up Escher room and tells Jacob that only he has the power to help his mother out. He tricks Freddy into thinking that he wants to roll with Freddy and doesn't give a fuck about Alice. And then Jacob shoots a giant tongue out of his mouth and it goes through Kruger. I'm not sure what the fuck this is, but the souls of the people that were killed in this movie shoot out of Kruger's back and drags him to Amanda? What the fuck? This is so fucking dumb. Alice picks up the fucked up baby Kruger and absorbs him into her stomach. Alice does the same thing with Jacob. This is a pretty fucking stupid ending to this movie. Okay, I guess that makes it a little better, but not really. Honestly, fuck this movie, and I'm glad this is the lowest grossing movie in the series. That's the review for Nightmare on Elm Street 5, I guess. This movie was shot and edited in 8 weeks, and it really shows. Shit, even the movie poster came out before they really knew what was going on in the movie. Speculation has it that Stephen King was offered a job writing and directing this movie. This is around the time Stephen King was directing movies coked out of his mind. And I couldn't help but think how awesome a movie would this have been produced by a coked out Stephen King. That's all I really have for this piece of shit. Stay tuned to the next episode with a way more fun installment of A Nightmare on Elm Street 6, Freddy's Dead.